Hey guys, just a quick video here on my top 10 ways to find deals on eBay. I deal with eBay quite a bit, buying and selling. So just kind of some thoughts here that if you're a buyer, ways to get better deals. I've even bought stuff before, finding deals this way, and then turned around and resold them, flipped them and made money, even just still using eBay. That can be done. Or if you're going to sell, this is some things kind of not to do. Those should help your auctions go for the highest amount. So anyway, just kind of some thoughts on eBay and ways to find some deals. The first item on there is newly listed and buy it now. Anytime you're looking for an item, I'd encourage you to go into the advanced search and go to the newly listed auctions and the ones that are newly listed and buy it now. Sometimes people will put auctions on there and they don't do their homework. They do a buy it now auction and they don't really know what the item's worth. So they list it on there for a lot less than what it's worth. The trick though there is those things go quick, so go into the newly listed. It should hopefully help you to try to find it before somebody else does. So when there's been items before that I've been looking for that are more expensive and I'm not in a huge hurry, I'll just search for it every day on, a couple times a day, newly listed and buy it now, and sometimes you find one that's a lot cheaper that's newly listed and buy it now, and you can save some money that way. The next one is might be considered by some people kind of silly, but I've had really good luck with it, is when you find an item where the seller has no feedback or very low feedback, or very minimal feedback I should say. I wouldn't buy from somebody with really low feedback, a 10% feedback rating. That's probably not going to go well. But somebody with zero feedback, a lot of times buyers are hesitant because they don't know if it's somebody who just started an account on eBay just to try to scam you, But most of the time, 99% of the time, these are honest people who are just getting started on eBay, and everybody starts with zero feedback. So I found some great deals buying from people with zero feedback, because other people I think were gun shy and didn't want to buy from a seller with no feedback. So the other thing about this is you're protected through eBay. If you pay for the item and it never arrives, eBay will refund your money. So there's no hassle there outside of just it's a pain, to buy the item and then it not come. It might be upsetting, but you're not going to be out that money. To me, the advantage far outweighs the risk. So no feedback I think is a great way to go. Quick story, I'm a James Bond fan, and I found a complete lot of all the James Bond novels. It was 99 cents was the opening bid, and I was the only bidder on it because the seller had zero feedback. It got here like 2 days later, packaged really well. It was just a great score. I already had a lot of the books, so I ended up reselling the ones that I already had, book by book, and I ended up I think I made 50 or 60 bucks and then finished my collection, and I even traded out ones that were in better condition, so this ended up being a really good deal. And I've had lots of experiences like that with sellers with no feedback. So the next one is to do a best offer early in an auction. I'm going to have one on here later too that's going to be best offer late in the auction, but there's thoughts on each. Sometimes a seller just wants to make quick cash. That's why they do a best offer, because it could end sooner than if they did a week-long listing or whatever. So it depends on the seller, and obviously you don't know what the seller's motivation is. But when I've found ones before that have been fairly newly listed and have been buy it now or best offer, I've found that sometimes making even a lowball best offer early, sometimes they just want to make the deal right away and have the quick cash. So if they have best offer on there, the worst thing they can say is no. If it's a fairly new auction, don't be afraid to throw a best offer out there just to see. And yeah, I think a lot of times they're going to probably decline it or counter, but I've had really good luck a few times with sending a best offer early that was low, where they just took it. I'm assuming because that's why they put the best offer on there, was because they needed the quick cash. So another one is best offer late, preferably within the last 48 hours of the auction. When you make a best offer bid on eBay, the seller has 48 hours to accept or decline or counter the bid or the offer. So I've had good luck before. I'll find an auction that I'm interested in, and I'll wait till there's about 47 hours left, and I'll make the best offer price, and I'll make it really low. If it's something especially that I don't necessarily need or I'm not in a huge hurry for, I'll make a low best offer price in the last 48 hours. And a lot of times what happens is the seller will get nervous as that auction gets to the end and they haven't sold the item. And you'd be surprised how often in the last 10 minutes of their auction they will accept that low offer, because to them it's better than relisting it. They'd rather just get something for it. So if there's something that's down, to less than 2 days and it's a best offer, and it hasn't sold yet, don't be afraid to make a low ball, and you'd be surprised they just might take it, especially right at the end. They'll have that full time. And as a seller, it's nice if somebody makes you an offer there in that last 48 hours, because you can, monitor the auction right till the end, and then decide at the last minute if you want to take it or not. And a lot of times sellers will take it because they don't want to hassle with relisting. So making a best offer late in the last 48 hours is a good way sometimes to find a good deal. This one's kind of a simple one, typos. I've learned this one the hard way. I've listed things before and had typos in them, and then people didn't find them and they went for way less than I thought. But sometimes you can find items on there that have stereotypical typos associated with them, and you can just type in the incorrect spelling and see if any come up, and sometimes they do. And obviously those ones, if somebody's looking for, I'll give you my example. The first item I ever sold on eBay, my mom was selling on eBay. I was probably about 10 or 12 years old, and I decided I wanted to sell my Game Boy on there. So my mom listed it for me, but she listed it instead of Game Boy as Game Bot. And so I went for the opening bid, and I gave it away for like $10, and it had a bunch of games. And so and my brother listed his too, and his was listed as Game Boy, and I think his sold for like 150 or something like that. So anyway, I learned that one the hard way. So typos, if you're looking to buy something, maybe type in some typo versions and see if you find any, because you might find one that's cheap and nobody's bidding on it because they can't find it. And if you're listing items, always double check your spelling, make sure there's no typos in there. Okay, this next one is auctions that end at weird times. Sometimes people are night owls and they'll be listing their auctions, at 3 in the morning or 5 in the morning, or just times when people aren't typically at their computer. So if you find auctions that end at weird times, if it's something that you want and you want to get a good deal on it, sometimes waiting up, or setting an alarm or whatever you got to do to get to your computer to make that bid, sometimes that's worth it, because if nobody else is willing to do that, you can get that item sometimes for cheaper. Whereas if the item ends at a normal time, I always try to, when I sell on eBay, I always in my auctions, like at 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, somewhere in those areas PM, because that's when people are home from work and at their computer unwinding, and they've worked all day and they're in the mood to buy something. So I always try to sell at those times. Any other times are more unusual to me, and especially the times in the middle of the night. There's not going to be as much competition for those items in the last few minutes, because there's not going to be 10 people probably staying up waiting for that item to end. You might be the only ones. You might get a decent deal that way. Time of year is another one. There's times, kind of cycles to eBay. Sometimes a year, obviously, you're much more busy on eBay. Summer is a lot slower typically, so sometimes you can get good deals in the summer if you're buying. I usually just quit selling in the summer and save stuff for the fall, because people are not at their computers as much in the summer. Winter is probably one of the better times to sell, because there's people at their computers a lot. So time of year is a factor. Also, if you're going to buy something that's seasonal, if you want to buy something that's a Santa Claus, for example, don't buy it in December. If you buy it in June, you're probably going to get a much better deal on it. Everybody's looking for those things in November and December, so there's been more competition for them. There's been times before where I've wanted a certain thing that was seasonal, whether it was a vintage Halloween decoration or whatever, and if you just wait till after the holiday ends, and you can wait a year till the next year, you can usually get it for significantly less. And if there's things like that I know I want, I'll check them out in the summertime too and see if I can find a good deal. So yeah, time of year is another thing just to consider when you're buying and or selling. 2 for 1 is another one. Sometimes you find people who are kind of lazy on eBay when they list, and they'll list 2 items that are the same. It'll be a lot of 2 of the same item, which to me is kind of not a smart thing when you're selling. It doesn't take that much more time to list them as 2 separate auctions. But a lot of people will shy away from that because as a buyer, if you want one of the item and you see an auction for two, you're going to think, well, this is going to go for twice what the price is. I only want one. I'm not going to buy that. But you'd be surprised, a lot of times those 2-for-1 kind of auctions go for about the same price as one, or very little over. An example is I wanted a old-fashioned microphone. I'll actually show it to you here. Here it is. It's an old ham radio microphone. But anyway, I wanted one of these microphones. It's an astatic mic. I found an auction where a guy was selling two of them, and it was a buy it now or best offer. I sent a best offer, and he took it. It was a really fair price. It was about the price of that one would cost. So I kept one, sold the other one. I think I made about $3 or $4. I took some nice pictures and stuff of the other one, and sold one and kept one, and basically got the one, got paid to take the other one. So if you can find those 2-for-1s and you're willing to do a little bit of work and resell one of the items, a lot of times you can get it for free or close to free, or definitely significantly under what it would have cost you just to buy that one item. So anyway, just kind of another thought, look for those 2-for-1 auctions. Another one here is just a bonus item. Sometimes you find an auction, this is similar to the 2-for-1, but where it's one item and then they throw in like a bonus item that's kind of a related item that you might not need. So like if you, let's say that you're buying, I don't know, let's say that you're buying let's go back to the Game Boy example. Let's say you're buying a Game Boy, and there's a Game Boy that comes with a bunch of games, sometimes those lots will go for about the same price as what the Game Boy would, and then you can resell the games if they're not games you want or whatever. So look for, auctions that have bonus items associated with them, items that aren't really the main meat and potatoes of the auction, but things that you can turn around and resell and maybe take some cost off of that item one that you actually want. The next one here is kind of similar to the first two, just looking for lots and reselling and trying to get yours for free. Sometimes you find a lot of like 4 or 5 of something, and that's usually where you can really make good money. Or even just like a lot of, like, going back to, if you're into vintage video games or whatever, buying a lot of like vintage video games and cherry picking the ones that you want, and then reselling the games individually. They'll sell for a lot more money than they will in a lot. So I've done that before, where I've bought a lot of vintage video games and kept the ones that I wanted, resold the ones that I didn't, and come out even, and got to keep some games that were higher in games, just for doing a little bit of work of reselling. So looking for lots and being willing to resell is another good way to kind of get some items for free, the items maybe that you might actually want. And the last note here, just to be smart when selling. If these are things, as a buyer, to look for deals, don't do these things as a seller. I'll admit that I've made many of these mistakes before as a seller, but I've been working on eBay for several years now. So, when you are selling, think about some of these things and don't make these mistakes. Think about when you're going to end your auctions, and don't be lazy and list things in big lots. List things individually. Typically you'll make more money, those kind of things. So anyway, guys, just some of my thoughts on eBay and finding deals on eBay and smart selling and those kind of things. So use eBay as a tool. I'd recommend it. It's a great tool. Yes, there are issues with eBay. There are fees. A lot of people call it fee-bay because there's lots of fees. You will lose some money on the fees, and PayPal takes their cut. But it's a great way to reach a huge audience of buyers. So I definitely think it's a tool, especially for getting your finances in order, and if you're looking to hustle silver or gold or whatever, using eBay is a good way to do it. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. God bless.